What's up, guys? Welcome to the third live stream on the channel. Super excited to have you. If you're here live, drop comments in the chat. Put 3 Qs in front of them so I can find them later. It can be about anything. The Q&A can be about gear, it can be about editing, it could be about content creation, you know, building a YouTube channel, anything you want to do with that. That's kind of what I want these live streams to be. I'm going to have a whole bunch of Q&A section, but also there's going to be some training, teaching, whatever elements where I want to talk about something. So yeah, so anyway, before we get into that, I want to pitch my Creator Lab community. We launch on September 1st, so that's coming up in like 10 days. And if you are interested in being in a community that's going to kind of push you to develop your skills of video creation as well as just being a creator in general, check that out. And oh, hey, Mona, nice to see you. Thanks for showing up. And yeah, so the creator community starts in just a few weeks, or just a week and a half. So excited about that. In here, I just wanted to show a quick walkthrough. In here, I have some things in the classroom that basically I'm trying to make it so that if someone wants to learn how to go from not started to producing consistently and high quality, that's kind of what the classroom's for. So I have like month 1, 2, and 3, which is that journey. And it's literally stuff every day that they can do to just help build that craft and those skills. So, hey, Simply Fit Physical Therapy, how's it going? Hi, Kathy. Glad you could make it. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, so you're working. Nice. Yes, that's good. I was in Ty's live stream yesterday. I was working as well. So anyway, so like that's the classroom is going to be kind of like that. There'll eventually be like a pro area as well, which has some more like, I guess, teaching on the business side of things and systematizing and kind of monetizing what you're doing. So that's what that is. So I just wanted to plug that real fast as we get going. I do have just a little bit that I wanted to go through and talk about just ways we can edit faster, and then get into some questions. So again, if anything pops up, it can be any questions at all, really. Drop those in the chat over on the side. And if you're watching in the replay, welcome. Thank you. I get quite a few more replay views than I do live streams, like during the live stream itself. I think last week's live stream I have like 175 views on after the fact, so that's great. So yeah, if you're watching replay, drop the comments. Any questions you have or any comments you have, drop them in the video below. I'm gonna get into a rhythm of even commenting on those. So like maybe as part of the next live streams, I'll actually pull up the comments or the questions from those and answer those as well. So even if you're on replay, you can have those questions answered as well. So anyway, yeah, so I'm going to jump over here and just show you a little bit of kind of a 4-pass system that I have that just helps you edit a little bit quicker. And it's really simple. Like editing, I think, can get so daunting for people and they just kind of get overwhelmed with that process and maybe think a little bit too much. So I'm trying to simplify it here and just show just an easy way to think through that process. So like the big idea for this is that you just need to make one decision at a time. So you separate your thinking from tinkering, and that the tinkering right here is what actually causes editing to take so long. And that is something you can't really do when you're in a project. If you want to tinker, it's kind of something you need to do on a different time or when you're just kind of challenging or you have extra time to do it. So we'll start with pass number 1, which is what I call the story spine. So this is where you're cutting for meaning. So you are basically just looking at what you're wanting to say, what you're wanting to teach or talk about, whatever the topic is, and that's what you're cutting for. So you're just doing a rough cut basically of that. So you teach the lessons, you look at what are the beats in the video, and then you're removing all the filler, like you're deleting the repeats. This happens to me all the time in video. When I'm making a video, I'll repeat the same thing and just say it a little slightly different a couple times, and that's where I want to delete these because that's just going to lose people. They don't need it said more than once. And then obviously any tangents, if you're going off script, you can get rid of some of those and some filler stuff, so this is the first pass. One thing that I like to think about to test this is, could a first-time viewer summarize the point in 30 seconds? So if you have multiple points, if the point number 1, a viewer can't understand what your point is and can't summarize that in 30 seconds, then it's probably too long. Now, I'm not saying you have to say it in 30 seconds, but they have to be able to like summarize it and say it back to you pretty quickly. Otherwise, that probably needs to be broken up into multiple points. So that's pass 1. Pass number 2 is about rhythm and energy, and this is about the timing and how it's not equal to the speed of things. So like you want to tighten the heads and tails, what's at it, like the beginning and end of things, and remove dead air. So that's a little bit like deleting all this kind of filler stuff, but this is just tightening it up. So usually after a rough cut, I'll go back into it and I will tighten up the edges and the pacing of the gaps between the clips a little bit. And so just to make sure that, it's good to go. And then you can place use a pace ladder. So basically think of like each section separate like this. So you can open up quickly and kind of just the pacing can be a little bit fast. I mean, the whole video can be this way, but also each section can be this way. Where it's quick, you get into kind of like, this is what it's going to be about. Then you do like the breadth of context. So really figuring out like, this is where you explain it all and you give the context of what that is. And then you kind of re-accelerate into some examples to kind of, bring that context home. And then another thing is adding micro movement. So this is where I would do this after the whole rough cut's done. This is where I'll do the punch ins, like just zoom in, on the shot, a cutaway. So B-roll, I might drop some B-roll here, or some quick visual change if that's, I don't know, adding some motion to like a slow zoom or something. And that's kind of what I'll do during the second pass for rhythm and energy, because you want to give a little bit energy to it as well as have rhythm. And then just the rule of feel. And this is like, you can't really teach this. This just comes from, I don't know, experience and just doing it a lot of times, is when in doubt, cut earlier. So basically what that means is if you feel like it's dragging on, then it's probably dragging on. So like find a way to cut some of that out, cut earlier, and kind of just bring things together a little bit tighter. All right, the third pass is for clarity. Obviously, like we have a lot of clarity by cutting a lot of this stuff out in the first two passes, but this is where we want to bring clarity to the person who is watching. So this is going to help get the message across. And that is like minimal on-screen text. Like you want to put some on-screen text, like for instance, to help drive the what and the why and the where home. So that way people can understand what you're saying. It's just something to kind of bring that context that we talked about earlier and the real world examples to the forefront and just hit home some of the main things that you want to clarify a little bit better. J cuts and L cuts help with the smoothness of the cuts, and they can also keep it from seeming really jittery, like cutting from one thing to the next, and then that removes the lack of clarity in what you're saying. Hey Steve, what's up? I just saw your comment here. Doing good. Yeah, thanks for hopping in and hitting the like button. I appreciate it, man. Anyway, so that's what J and L cuts are. Basically, if you don't know what that is, that a J cut is when the audio starts from the second clip before you actually cut to that second clip, and an L cut is the opposite. So I guess for you it'd be like this, where your video, the audio carries past where your video ends. And so it's just a little hack. That's kind of niche. You don't really have to get to that level, but it does help with clarity because it can help make your audio and like the dialogue smoother and come together a little bit better. Show the results early and then reference it as you teach. So this is something I'm trying to get better at. This is part of that clarity where you want to put the results and kind of like the proof, if you will, the social proof up front, so that it just makes your audience say, you know what, they know what they're talking about. I need to see how does this happen, right? So here's the results. Let me find out how this happened. So trying to do that will actually bring a lot more clarity to what your video is doing as well, or what you're teaching or talking about. And then remove anything the viewers must figure out. And I kind of talked about it earlier, but like anything that the viewer is like, I'm not sure what that is, I got to think about it, that immediately makes them click off for the most part. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a video, or watched a video where you have to try to figure out what they're talking about, and then it just kind of pulls you out of that video. So clarity beats clever every time. And that's something that like I struggle with sometimes too, because like I want to do all these cool things, I want to edit a certain way. This isn't just like with the script, but it's also visually. Sometimes it's fun to use the really cool templates and graphics and B-roll and all this other stuff, but if it makes it unclear, then it's not worth using. So clarity beats clever. Make sure you do that. All right, pass 4. This is when you get to the kind of end of the video, and this is where you're going to polish. I wouldn't polish anything. And what I mean polish is like just the fine tune, kind of that, from up here, the tinkering side of things. Don't go into polish until the very, very last. It wastes so much time when you maybe do like the first 30 seconds and then you just feel like you want to polish that up really good before you move on to the rest of the video. It actually will cause you to edit way longer than if you just wait to polish to the end. So that includes like balancing the dialogue. So balancing or normalizing the audio just so the levels are clear. They're loud, they're at the right, decibel, but they're clear across the board and it doesn't go up and down. And so that's what I would do first. I'd add a little music that supports. So that's key. It needs to support the video. And then, so that's kind of what you're doing at the first there. And then simple color. I do a little bit more than this, but I wouldn't do color grading until that time either. And essentially, like, the main things you need, the three things are exposure, white balance, and then add some contrast. So exposure is key. You really need to get that right in camera most of the time, but if you can't, adjust it in post, use some waveforms or graphs or whatever. White balance is just how warm or cool the image is. Make sure it looks natural. And then gentle contrast. I wouldn't add too much, but add enough that it boosts a little bit of contrast, which will also bring up some of the saturation as well. So that's when you do colors. You do light noise reduction on the image as well as in audio. Again, consistent level of the voice is big here in the final phase. And then you do the export check. So just make sure that your voice is clear, that the first 5 seconds is clean. It's, really maybe the first 30 seconds, your whole hook. Like, make sure that is polished and ready to go. And then the big thing here is in that hook, make sure that you're stating the promise of your video and then also making sure it's delivered throughout the whole video. Like, that's just before I go through export, I watch it through and I think about those things just to make sure from the vantage point of a viewer. If you have questions about any of this stuff, drop them in the chat or in the comments below, and I'll touch on those. So for those 4 phases, those are just go through those. This is the decision workflow. Basically, I kind of structure everything through phase 1 and 2 before I go to anything with the style, which is in phase 3 and 4. So all the structure is phase 1 and 2. Work top down. So this is like the whole segment, each beat, individual frame. So like even on a video, work from the whole video, do the rough cut on the whole video, and then come down to like each beat, and then come down to individual frames. So work top down. And then, the default choices like hard cuts over dissolve. So that's just basically a cut, immediate cut. A dissolve is kind of like a fade between 2 clips. And then shorter beats over longer beats. And what does a beat mean? It's just like the pacing or the tempo of a main point. So the longer you ramble on about your point number 1, the less likely people are going to be around for point number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So shorten those beats up to the point where they're giving the context and the information that's needed, but they're not like, overwhelming or just dragging on. And then the fewer fonts, this is a visual thing, the fewer fonts over more. So like, don't do a bunch of different fancy fonts throughout the video, like maybe 2 max. I use only 1. Now you can change per video. Like on different videos, I'll use a different font sometimes. But usually I just have one font for the whole video. These kind of things just simplify and just, make it more consistent and concise. And then the viewer checklist. This is putting yourself in the position of the viewer. So, kind of get in their shoes. So does the payoff of their click? So obviously with your title and thumbnail, does the payoff appear or is it previewed in the first 10 seconds? So is there some sort of confirmation of the promise and the payoff of the click that you got on your title and thumbnail? That needs to be happening in the first 10 seconds. And then no 2 back-to-back boring shots. You can judge what boring is. Some videos, they're just boring videos because you don't need a lot of flash. So you have to judge on that. Now, if it's something that needs to have pacing, the boring shots that I think of are just like, if I'm just dragging it out, like, with what I'm saying, those are too boring. Like, I don't want those back to back. I want to throw in some B-roll. I want to throw in some stuff that kind of sparks the viewer's brain to, hey, stick around. There's more going on than just this shot, So just think about that from the viewer standpoint. Obviously, thinking about just fluff sentences. So like stuff that has no meaning, make sure that they don't go past the first pass number 1. Get rid of those sentences. And then, make sure that the graphic that you put on screen, so text or image or whatever, answers a question, is not decorating the frame. So like think about whatever you're adding on screen is only to emphasize what you're saying. It doesn't need to be just there to look cool. So yeah, I think that's just the viewer checklist that I go through. So that's pretty much it that I just wanted to talk through, the 4-pass system that I kind of use just to make sure I'm getting everything flowing well, and I'm making sure that my, story or message or whatever I'm talking about is coming through quickly and efficiently, but also effectively. So yeah, I think if you haven't, if you haven't done something like this, maybe do a 4-pass on the next video you're doing or the one you're working on. Or if you haven't done a video, make a 60 to 90 second video on something that you just love to talk about, and then go in and edit and do this 4-pass system. I will link, it's not linked in the description right now, but I will link this document here in the description after we're done with the live stream, so that you guys can get that and use that. And then if you want feedback on these type of things, join the Creator Lab that I talked about earlier. This is where you can get feedback on these type of projects or like challenges, or anything that you're working on yourself for your own channel or your own business. That's where you can get feedback on all these things. And we have practice prompts like this every week in there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the editing faster with fewer decisions and the whole 4-pass system that I use. Yes, thanks, Mona. I'm glad this is helpful. I try to make it there. And then yeah, that's good to know about the fonts. I usually just use one. Yeah, I think I've seen some people use like multiple fonts, and it's fine, but it really does kind of throw you off, because even in design, if you're doing web design, you only want to use a couple of different fonts, like a header font and then a body font. You don't want to use so many of those that it just gets annoying. So yes, yeah, you're welcome. If this is really simple, like there's a lot to it, and really I don't think that there's ever one system that works for anybody. In fact, I've changed systems. These are all typical things that I do in every one of my systems, but they, it might fluctuate depending on your learning and what you're doing in your style and what kind of videos you're making. So don't just lock yourself into a box, but definitely use some of this if you can. All right, let's see. I got another question from Kathy. Wondering how to do a J cut and L cut in DaVinci Resolve without messing up the audio on the timeline. Okay, yeah. So essentially, let me load up DaVinci Resolve. I didn't have it open. You basically have to hold Alt when you click and select either the audio or video, and what that does is it lets you only select the audio or the video, not the linked clip. And then you can drag that piece over there. It's opening right now, so I'll show you here in a second. You can definitely mess it up if you don't, do it right. But all right, let me just open up Untitled Project. All right, so let me see if I can find a quick file here. Actually, I could just do it with, yeah, let's throw this up here. Just gonna center this over here. Okay, so let me just make a timeline here, and then I'll just throw a clip adjustment on. Well, that's not gonna be linked together, but let me find a file here. Sorry, I didn't have this loaded here, but we're gonna make this work. Let's get a clip. Okay. All right, so I have just loaded like my live stream countdown in here. So it has like the audio and the video is synced, or linked, I should say. So when I move them around, you know, they're together. So let me cut this open here. And so like, let's pretend those are two different clips that are two different video clips. So yeah, if you just drag like one, it's going to drag both the audio and the video. But if you come in here and you hold Alt, so let's say I just held, or Option, I guess, if you're on a Mac, and see how I can just hold Alt and then drag that middle thing, I can come over. So this would be a J cut. So see how this kind of makes a J shape here. So this audio from this video clip is going to start before this video ends. That's a J cut. And then the opposite is true of an L cut. So I'm holding Option again and dragging it over here. And so obviously you have to time it up to your words and what you're saying, you know, so it makes sense. But that's quickly how to do it. So like they're still linked. See how they're still linked. But I've basically changed the cut point on just the audio. And then even if maybe that is causing problems, you can actually unlink these as well. So like if they're selected, you can right click, and right here, there's a link clips. And if you uncheck that, then they're actually unlinked and you can move them anywhere you want. But that will get your video out of sync if you're, you know, if it's a talking head and it has audio from you talking, it'll get out of sync. But that's how you do that really quickly, is just hold Option or Alt and kind of just drag that to where it needs to be. Hopefully that answered your question, Kathy. Yeah. So anyway, if there's any other questions, drop them there. I don't have any loaded questions for this week. I just kind of was going to go over that, you know, the training about editing. And if you get into Creator Lab, another plug, because it's launching and I want to plug it. So is like, I do plan to have like basically if you're in the community during these live streams, you are able to pre-submit like questions. So you'll be able to submit questions to me earlier, and then those are guaranteed to be covered on the live stream. So I can maybe even plan for some more complex questions, and show, you know, walk through it. And so that way there's some pain points that are going to be covered. That's part of the benefit of being in the community as well, is you get priority questions for the live stream here on YouTube. And then, you know, you'll get a little bit more coverage there. Yeah, I'm trying to just look over here and see if I had any other, you know, like written questions down. Yeah, it doesn't look like I do. I mean, if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, it doesn't have to be about editing. It can be about anything, YouTube in general. If not, no biggie. We've been live streaming for a little bit, and you know, I know that starting out here, this is fun. I've enjoyed doing live stream. I'm going to definitely keep doing it, and hopefully it's useful to people. Like I said, if you're watching the replay still, thanks for hanging out, and drop comments and questions down below, because like I said, I kind of want to maybe make that a part of this live stream as well, is just bringing those up in the live stream from the previous one and answering those questions if I don't get to them. So anyway, so yeah, that's funny. I can't think of a question, but I probably have one. Oh yeah. That's no biggie. Yeah, that's how I am too. I'm on the other live streams a lot of times. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure what to ask. Sometimes, actually, for Ties 2 weeks ago, I think last week, I was like, I want to ask some like deep questions. So I like went to ChatGPT and typed in like, give some context. I was like, give me some questions to throw at him. And I think I threw one at him and he started answering it. It took him a while to answer it, but it was a good one. It worked. But anyway, it's kind of fun. So thanks guys for hanging out. Kathy and Mona, and I'm keeping you from editing your next video. Well, that's not good. You gotta get after that. No, thanks for hanging out, guys. And thanks for everybody for watching after the fact on the replay. Appreciate it. And hope to see you guys in the Creator Lab community. And that's pretty much it. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of your weekend.